Hi, my name's Anna Serin, and I'm Director of Listings Development with the Canadian Securities Exchange. You're joining us for yet another market recap on Friday, November 26th. Our intro was actually misleading today. I'm joined by Jordan Youl with StoneCastle Investment Management. Thank you so much for joining me, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
It's always lovely to have you here. I hope Bruce is good and hopefully enjoying a day off. What a day he took off. Bruce goes away, and look at what happens to the markets. We have a lot to break down about what's going on in the markets today. I'm sure it makes people pretty nervous. Luckily, we have your wonderful sage advice on what's going on so that we can all take a look at it a little bit differently. We're going to talk about the volatility that happened in the markets. We're going to talk about asset leadership model. We talked about that last week. You're going to touch on that again. We're going to talk about the US LEI Index and what's going on there. We're going to touch on NFT. We talk about this a lot on Market Recap, but NFT was named Word of the Year by the Collins Dictionary. We're going to talk about that. And then, of course, we're going to get into some CSE issuer news. Look, there was some volatility in the market this week that we're going to talk about, Jordan. But obviously, we woke up today and there's been a big shift in what's happened in the past 24 hours. So why don't you break it down for us?
Yeah, exactly. Going into this week, we definitely experienced an uptick in market volatility, which was expected. But really, the last 24 hours has really changed the narrative of the equity markets this week, obviously with this new COVID variant that has obviously wreaked havoc on the equity markets and also the commodity markets as well this morning. Case in point, energy is down about 13% today, and the Dow and the major global equity markets have sold off significantly intraday as well today.
Okay, so obviously we're going to talk about the new COVID variant, and that is the main part of what's going on. So just for those of you who haven't heard about this yet, there's a new COVID variant that's been discovered. It's been discovered in South Africa. It is being named the B11529. It's been detected in Hong Kong as well as Botswana. It appears to have over 30 mutations, and it seems to increase transmissibility. I mean, this is very nerve-wracking for all of us across the globe. We feel like we've kind of just come out the other side of it, and vaccinations going through, and this could potentially create further lockdowns. We're already starting to see lockdowns happen and flight restrictions happen. What happens next, and how do you think this is going to affect the markets?
Well, growth is going to be a question, right, in terms of lockdowns and restrictions and the economic backdrop. What does that mean moving forward? So it's definitely concerning. Now, some of the healthcare stocks in particular have performed very well, like Pfizer, for example, today in light of this negative news. But yeah, it does definitely puts a question mark into what the aftermath is, especially being a short week this week with American Thanksgiving. The U.S. markets are closed effectively as we speak, but the future markets are still open and the markets continue to sell off. So we have the weekend to really take a deeper dive into the research and what this means moving forward. But it's definitely going to create a significant volatility probably in the near term for sure for the equity markets.
Yeah, and I think perhaps we were all starting to feel like we were getting into recovery mode, and we started on Market Recap. I feel like we're always talking about recovery numbers, and this definitely will probably put things into a different perspective. Do you think also, because we've just gone through this for we're coming up on 2 years, that people will get more afraid than we might have in the past because they don't want to be a part of any swings that are going on? It could create further swings.
Yeah, potentially. We've made a lot of progress, obviously, with the vaccination numbers, and we all want to move forward in life. And we've had a great recovery. The markets, hit all-time highs last week, right? So we don't want to take one foot forward and then two steps back. We want to keep on, trucking along. But what was really interesting was, like, even on Wednesday, the markets gapped down at the open and then had an intraday reversal and closed at the high of day on Wednesday, leading into Thursday, which was a holiday for the U.S. market. So, at that time, everything was really aligned and improving, and a lot of the indicators that we follow were positive. So, the last 24 hours or so have really definitely shifted the market and the narrative right now for investors.
Okay, when you see, I want to focus on this as much as we can today because I want to make sure that, especially new investors, are making sure that they're kind of being very cautious about when they see days like this in the market. When you see days like this, how do you do your due diligence on what's going on in the market? Is it newspapers? Is it articles? Is it blogs? Is it, where do you send people to go and maybe do some due diligence on what's happening from a global perspective? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of research platforms that are available. What we do on our end, whether it's Twitter or CNBC, there's a lot of noise and narratives and up-to-date news that is available. But from our perspective, we use price and technical analysis to determine strength and weakness. And despite the negative environment today, the VIX index, which is the fear index for the US, was up 50% today. Energy being down 13% today. So the takeaway here is that everything is really extremely pessimistic right now. So from a contrarian standpoint, we might see some type of reversal or pullback potentially early next week. Time will tell. But to remove the noise and the emotional aspect when it comes to investment decisions, it's more important to follow, the price and the trend of that particular issue, security, or benchmark, for example, to make informed decisions.
Yeah, if you're investing on fundamentals, then don't forget about the fundamentals in these moments. Okay, we're going to move along. Let's talk about something a little bit more pleasant. Let's talk about the asset leadership model. We touched on this last week with Bruce. It sounds like Canada's doing pretty well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, at StoneCastle, we have a variety of different top-down indicators to determine our positioning. And effectively, what we do is in our asset leadership model, we rank different asset classes on a comparative basis to one another. And in the context of an equity investor, we want equities to be ranked in the number one spot, okay, on a comparative basis to fixed income, commodities, and cash. That's where we're at today, which is good. Where we would be concerned is once we see, cash or fixed income, the defensive asset classes exhibit stronger relative strength on a comparative basis to equities. Now, really what's changed intra-quarter is strength in the dollar. So the US dollar has been very strong for the last number of weeks. And as a result, it has replaced foreign equities in the number 3 spot. So the takeaway here is that in the context of the equity market universe, we're seeing more opportunities in North America, in particular Canada, right? So as you mentioned, Canada ranks one of the strongest global equity markets on a comparative basis to 30 of the major global equity markets that we follow. And I don't know if we have a chart or not of the asset leadership model, but effectively Canada is the number one global equity market on a comparative basis. So you can see in the chart here, we've highlighted Canada number one in Q4, and it's been one of the strongest movers intra-quarter. So as an example, out of the 30 global equity markets, it did rank number 14. So middle of the pack, and now it ranks number one, which is fantastic. On the left-hand side, you can see domestic equities continue to rank number one, which is what we want. And then on the right-hand side, this is the relative rotation graph, and we've referenced this many times during the market recap program. And effectively what we're doing is we're taking these 30 major global equity markets and comparing them to Canada. And you can see a majority of them are moving in a negative southwest direction in the relative rotation graph. And you can see they're moving in the weakening and lagging quadrant as well. So that dictates or indicates that Canada has stronger technical attributes or momentum on a relative basis to a majority of the global equity markets out there. And that's very positive and constructive, and that creates a great opportunity here domestically to look for new investment ideas.
Very cool. That's awesome. I like seeing that, especially on a week like this. Okay, let's talk about the US LEI Index. What is going on there? I know that there's been an increase there. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, and kind of goes back to your comments about where do you go to find information, and the LEI index has so many economic factors and data points or variables that go into the index, and it creates a great chart or pattern in terms of what the economic backdrop is telling us. And the LEI Index, which factors stock price appreciation, but also unemployment rate and other variables, and it hit all-time highs. And it was released last week as well, which is great. But the rate of change and the underlying momentum month over month is starting to exhibit signs of weakness to a degree. Now, there are some variables within the LEI Index that are improving and others are detracting somewhat. So we do have a chart on a comparative basis of the US LEI Index, and this is data as of last month. And the chart on the right-hand side is the long-term chart of the LEI Index, which is the blue line. You can see it's hitting all-time highs, which is fantastic. But the chart on the left is the rate of change of the LEI Index over the rolling 6-month period. Now, when you're looking at this, there's a lot of information here, but the takeaway here is that we do not want the blue line or the red line to be negative, okay? So when both indices turn negative, that is telling us that the economic backdrop is deteriorating. And historically, anytime that happens, there's a strong probability that the US will go into a recession. And that is what the horizontal gray shaded areas indicate on that chart on the left-hand side as well. So you can see historically when those indices turn negative, a recession occurs shortly thereafter. So we saw that during the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, and then during the tech wreck in the early 2000s. We're not there yet, but that's something that we're watching very closely.
Jordan, you do such an amazing job of explaining how to look at those graphs. So thank you so much for that. That's a big part of our platform here, is to try and educate. It's so interesting when you explain it like that and you take a look at it. So hopefully we won't see it go in the negative. Okay, let's talk about NFTs. NFTs, we talk about a lot, actually. The funny thing about NFTs is that we have actually lots of issuers that are involved in making NFTs or involved in the NFT space. And actually, we did a fantastic forum, Digital Securities in the Capital Markets. It's on CSE TV. I encourage people to check it out. We did a panel specifically on NFTs. I learned so much from it. NFTs, really, they've come to market as, so they're non-fungible tokens if you've been living under a rock. But really, they've come to market as pieces of a digital asset that is unchangeable, and you can't recreate it and you can't copy it. And so you own this unique piece of digital asset. It's really come to market in the arts world, similar to baseball cards. But this panel that we did, which I learned a lot about, realized that NFTs are going to become a huge part of our digital life. When you buy a ticket to go to a concert or anything that you might do where you need this unique kind of digital asset will be an NFT at some point. So NFTs are going to be huge. They're going to be something that we use all the time, no matter how you used your digital world. But NFT had a big week. It was named Word of the Year by the Collins Dictionary. And so Collins Dictionary, which chooses kind of these terms every year, and every year I feel older and older because I'm less out of touch with what they are, except for this year I'm pretty into it. It's Word of the Year after surging interest in the digital tokens that can sell for millions of dollars, which is kind of mind-numbing. It is experts at Collins, based in Glasgow, Scotland, said that the meteoric rise in usage is up 11,000% in 2021. So it's had quite the year, NFT. So congratulations. Okay, Jordan, tell us what happened in the markets with NFTs and with sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on a side note, crypto was number 2. So that's what's quite interesting. But yeah, we do have a chart just showing the exponential growth of the NFT market.
I'm gonna make a prediction. Metaverse is next year's.
Metaverse, I think so. Yeah, it's
that's my
definitely up there for
prediction.
sure.
So watch this next year. I don't know what I get for that.
That's definitely creating a tailwind, though, right, for NFTs, obviously with the metaverse theme as well. But we do have a chart showing the quarterly change over change for NFT sales volume. And, we spoke about this back in Q1 of this year, and we were like blown away by the growth, from Q3 of 2020 to Q1 of 2021, from 28 million to around 1.2 billion. But you can see the latest data as of Q3 has grown to $10.7 billion in sales volume for NFTs. So, there's definitely an appetite for investors to capitalize on this narrative. And, it's exciting. The content's always going to change. A majority of the sales have been from collectibles, whether it's sports memorabilia, art, music, things like that. But it's definitely exciting times for sure.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Because again, I do encourage people to go check out that panel. I did really learn so much, and it's just going to become a part of everything that we do. But really, the art world, it was amazing to see this explode. And I guess in a period of time where we're all locked away in our homes, it kind of makes sense. And like you mentioned, NFTs are going to continue to explode in the metaverse. So anyway, we'll continue to watch it. Congratulations, NFTs. Okay, we're going to get into my favorite part of the show, the CSE Issuer News. So today we're going to talk about all things carbon negative, which is a good thing. And we're going to talk about two of our issuers who are both in the mining space, but separate types of mining. So we're going to start talking about St. George's Eco Mining came out and they announced that they went into a binding agreement with Wintech Energy. It is a company out of South Korea. So what they're going to do is they've built development and licensing for production of what is referred to as the greenest hydrogen in the market. So that's pretty impressive. Wintech's microwave plasma technology produces hydrogen using methane without any carbon emissions. Battery grade carbon is, in fact, a byproduct of the operation, which makes its usage truly carbon negative. So it's pretty neat to see what they're doing. I've talked to that company before. We talked to them during our Mining Over Canada. They're such a neat company. They're so innovative and always working towards these things. So congrats, guys. This is a pretty neat thing that you're doing. The other company that I noticed this week was out there doing some good stuff in the mining space, but Bitcoin mining or crypto mining, EV battery tech. So they are creating the world's first carbon negative crypto miner. So this smart miner is an energy storage system that is capable of mining cryptocurrency. The smart miner will be the first device capable of mining the renewable obligation-based energy economy protocol. So this will be carbon negative as well. This unit that they're working on creating. So I mean, this is very cool that we're starting to see companies really come to the market with this. And we're also starting to see, I mean, these two companies are focused on this type of business model, but we're also seeing companies that are, not necessarily involved in this, but are creating ESG programs and carbon neutral or carbon negative programs within their, whether it be mining or manufacturing or whatever that might be. What do you think about this? When you and Bruce take a look at these companies, is ESG a factor for you guys? Is it important? How is the market responding to it?
The market is responding to it favorably, for sure. With our decision-making process, it's a factor, for sure. We're seeing more companies being more cognizant of climate change and doing what they need to do in terms of being innovative and coming up with technology and investing in ESG programs, which is a win-win for the climate, obviously, but also for the company as well and for shareholders. And investors in particular are more aware and cognizant of climate change and whatnot. So if there is an opportunity between two companies, they may want to look at a company that is cognizant of what they're doing to the environment.
Well, I love seeing this, and obviously, I don't know about you, Jordan, but feeling a little bit, extra cognizant of climate change these days. In Vancouver, you can only go and get your 30 liters of gas, and we're seeing some weather developments that are happening on the West Coast that we've never seen. I've lived on the West Coast my whole life, never seen weather patterns like this. We're seeing it on the East Coast as well, and I think it's a stark reminder that we all need to be doing our part, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the contrast in the summer, we had record-breaking fire season, right? And now we're having the floods and the excessive rain and flooding and whatnot. So
atmospheric river.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're learning a lot about weather and whatnot, but it's been one extreme to the other in a relatively short period of time.
Absolutely. Okay, Jordan, on that note, what should we think about going into next week? It's a big weekend. I hope everyone does lots of reading, but what should we think about?
Yeah, so top of mind is this new COVID variant, right? That's obviously affected the markets big time today. So that's something that we're going to have to, dig deeper in and do some research and see what the aftermath is and whatnot. See if there's any more restrictions or lockdowns or things of that nature. On the market side in Canada, the Canadian banks are reporting their earnings. Restrictions on share buybacks and dividend increases are coming off restrictions. So we'll see if that's an effect on the Canadian financials as they report next week. The TSX is also rebalancing their quarterly components or issuers that make up the index, and we'll see what companies will be added to the index and which companies will be removed from the index. And typically, when companies are added to the index, those companies typically perform well because of the passive ETFs and the mutual funds that own the index. They have to buy stocks of these companies that have been added to the index, right? So we've heard that there could be several energy names that could be added back to the index. So that's something that we're watching as well. And then OPIC has a meeting on December 2nd with their partners, and we'll see what their policy is going to be like for January and February. And obviously, COVID is going to play a factor in all of this. So
Absolutely.
we'll see what happens.
That'll be an interesting one to watch for. I also want to mention, as everyone is enjoying their weekend, if you want to do some amazing reading that is not about COVID and take a break from that, we just came out with our newest edition of the Public Entrepreneur, and it is everything psychedelic. So make sure that you check it out. It is a fantastic issue. We have some amazing issuers that are focused in the space. It really is that magazine just keeps getting better and better. So congrats to the production team that's doing it. So make sure you check it out. It can be found on our website. So thank you again, Jordan. It's always a pleasure to have you join me, and look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, same to you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.